Shortly after Wave 5's launch, I made a video called "The Booster Pass is Almost Solved." And that was true. We know mostly everything about the courses that should be coming to Wave 6, so a prediction video feels a little bit boring compared to the earlier waves. I'd be guessing on maybe 2 tracks, but there are still some details I want to cover here, and I'm going to up the ante by not just making this a prediction of the courses, but rather a prediction of the exact order in which they will all appear. But instead of going one by one, I'm going to jump around a bit. And this is because the way you arrive at conclusions feels more like solving a puzzle than just picking the courses. So bear with me. September is an incredibly common month for Nintendo Directs. Outside of the first COVID year, there has been a Direct in September every year that the Switch has been on store shelves. And what this means is that it is a safe bet to assume that we're going to get a Direct soon. The last 3 Nintendo Directs have all featured a teaser trailer for the Booster Pass. This is not a full reveal of the wave, but more of a sneak peek. And a constant for all 3 of these teasers is that they revealed a tour original course. First it was Merry Mountain, then Yoshi's Island, and then Squeaky Clean Sprint. Recognizing this pattern early made my joke leak for Wave 5 pretty predictable in hindsight, but there's a dilemma for Wave 6. We believe we know all of Tour's tracks now, so there won't be a surprise, but we have 2 of them this time to choose between. And I'm not sure they're going to want to do both at once in a teaser, given that both of them are Piranha Plant themed courses. Besides, they've only chosen one course to display the last 2 waves. With that being said, I thought back to Wave 3 where they actually revealed 2 tracks in that teaser, and when thinking about it more, I realized that there's a lot of reason to believe that they might pull a page out of Wave 3's book, but it's a longer explanation. So up to this point, Nintendo has made it a point of emphasis to make the last courses of each cup really stand out in the Booster Pass. Wave 1 and 2's cups both ended with a fan favorite retro track in the first cup and a tour original to close the second one out. Wave 4 and 5 acted as a duo as well, taking the tour original and putting them at the end of the first cup this time, while putting a city at the end of the second one. With 14 total cities appearing to be the final tally for Mario Kart Tour, there were always going to be 2 cities that could not start off a cup. It seems they saved 2 of the most popular ones to be the final tracks of Wave 4 and 5. Because of this though, Wave 6 can't just follow the last 2 waves because there's no 3rd city this time. So the idea that Waves 3 and 6 could act as a duo in this regard is more than plausible. And of course, what do you know, Wave 3's second cup ends with a Rainbow Road, and we think that Wave 6's will as well. So my starting point today is going to be asking the question, what course ended the first cup of Wave 3? Well, it was a course that deliberately moved up into Wave 3, perhaps to maintain this pattern. It was originally Rock Mountain, but it was instead changed to the fan favorite Maple Treeway. Now I will give the disclaimer here, Wave 6 is not an exact match to Wave 3's style, because there are 2 tour originals in waiting this time, but comparatively to the other 5 waves, Wave 3 appears to be the most similar to Wave 6. Interestingly enough, we have 3 retro courses left that could take the slot at the end of the first cup. I do not believe it's going to be Bowser Castle 3, so this would leave us between DK Mountain, Dino Jungle, and a mystery course. Really though, the only plausible mystery course that would fit in this slot I think would be Airship Fortress in my mind, but I don't believe that will happen. To explain why, I have to go on a bit of a tangent. So one observation that has remained constant for a while now is that the second course of each wave has been a relatively simple retro course. One thing that has also been noticed is that courses on the right side of the selection screen have been on average harder than on the left side in the Booster Pass, similar to the base game. That makes selecting a relatively simple course weird for Wave 6, because it's on the more difficult end of the spectrum. Wave 3, of course, is our one example to go off of, where Boo Lake was selected in this spot, and honestly it makes a lot of sense. Boo Lake kind of gives off the impression that it's a little bit more intimidating than your Toad circuits and Riverside Parks, but at the end of the day, it was still a relatively simple Flower Cup course. In Wave 6, it is almost a certainty that none of the retro courses will come from a former Mushroom or Flower Cup. So what would work best here? Well, I think it's gotta be SNES Bowser Castle 3. It's a menacing Bowser themed level that is not actually that difficult to play. I know many people expect a Bowser's Castle to come right before a Rainbow Road, but that hasn't always been the case, especially for the original 2D Bowser Castle levels. SNES BC3 was the final Bowser's Castle in Super Mario Kart, but it wasn't even in the Special Cup. So honestly, I would kind of be surprised if it didn't take this second slot. With that all said, I can't envision Airship Fortress being in the same cup as BC3. It already feels kind of like a stretch to put them in the same wave. Even if there are clear distinctions, they are both Bowser-themed levels at the end of the day. What I think is just more likely is that they end the first cup of GCN DK Mountain, a track that I don't really like a ton, but I know plenty of others do. Like Maple Treeway, it's a fan favorite, was present in Mario Kart Wii, had an epic canon, and even appeared as a retro course in the same game as Wii Rainbow Road, much like Maple Treeway did for 3DS Rainbow Road. When I've looked at everybody's Double Dash rankings, this seems to be the consensus favorite from that game. I have no idea why, but as a recent course and tour, taking advantage of the half-pipe gimmicks, it feels like a perfect fit right here that might even be a second course featured in the teaser trailer. These trailers have been showing off characters recently, and some DK characters seem incredibly likely to make the last wave, but I guess we'll have to see on that one. I know it was the third course of the Lightning Cup in Mario Kart Wii, but I would just be surprised to see it not return as a cup finale here. So I guess I just gave my answer to the GCN Jungle debate. So what of Dino Dino Jungle? Well, I definitely hope I'm wrong because I am a fan of DDJ, but it has been in tour since the beginning, and those courses haven't been getting into the Booster Pass recently, outside of Sunset Wilds, which was a pretty early addition. I remember a comment recently that told me that they likely put Sunset Wilds in Wave 5 to buy more time to get the sunset to work. This logic checks out, but so much for the execution, I guess. It feels less likely to me, but maybe there could be a case for Dino Dino Jungle. On the original data mines, they had GCN courses all taking up second slots of cups, and as we know now, there has been a lot of movement in recent waves. I wouldn't take these for law anymore really, but with that being said, this doesn't deconfirm the possibility. A lot of people have noticed that for special cups, the second course tends to be the one that is the most common to be remade when looking at the history of retro tracks in general. They surprised us with another in Move New Highway last wave, and many times these courses even directly translate to remaining as the second track in the last cup, even as retro courses. This happened with Dino Dino Jungle in Mario Kart 7, and Peach Gardens in Mario Kart Wii. Peach Gardens also got moved to the second track of the last cup in Wave 3 as well. So there is a thought that Dino Dino Jungle might do the same here, especially since there was a GCN course originally slated to be there. In this potential timeline, I could see Piranha Plant Cove taking over the final slot of Cup 1. This is because it is the tour original that plays most like a tour city, given it has 3 variants, and I would be wrong to not point out this possibility, and Wave 6 could still kinda act like Waves 4 and 5 if this was the case too. That being said, I am sticking with my DK Mountain prediction. Another big reason has to do with what I will be selecting as the mystery course. It is worth noting that despite this not being the original plan, there has been a pattern in where they place courses from certain games. We've already discussed how tour cities are slot 1 of cups, and particularly notable courses usually are in slot 4. But what about slots 2 and 3? Well, this has been the majority of retro tracks in the Booster Pass, but even when looking at it more closely, it seems that the placement of these courses seems slightly deliberate as well. Slot 2 courses tend to be courses from the flatter Mario Karts, or handhelds frequently. This has included SNES Mario Circuit 3, the last 4 GBA courses, the last 2 DS courses, and Toad Circuit. Slot 3 courses tend to be from home console entries such as 64, Double Dash, and Wii. Retros that make it into Slot 4 tend to not discriminate based on original entry, they're just all the fan favorites really. There are a few exceptions to this Slot 2 and 3 thing. This includes Sky Garden, Rock Rock Mountain, and Daisy Cruiser, but in all 3 of these instances, the other slot was already filled with a fitting course. For example, Sky Garden was a handheld retro track that made it into slot 3 of the second cup of the first wave, but the slot 2 courses of its wave were handheld original courses in Toad Circuit and Shroom Ridge. What this tells me is that they have a preferred way of business, but it hasn't impacted the actual selection of courses in each wave. When looking at the original leaks, it's kind of weird because a lot of GCN and Wii courses were in slot 2s and a lot of GBA courses were slot 3. Almost all of these have flipped, and I have no reason to think that Wave 6 will be different in this regard. In a community post I made a while back, you all overwhelmingly voted Airship Fortress to be the most likely mystery course, and I really do hope you all are right, but I just don't know if I see the path. However, I do see a lot of reasons as to why they might choose another course on this poll. One might think that Luigi's Mansion could be a good Halloween fit if it were to come out early, but like I said, I don't think any Mushroom Cup tracks will be on the way, and it was a 2019 tour track at that. The same goes for Shy Guy Bazaar. I really like Wario Shipyard, but it is hard to envision its inclusion in a wave of Piranha Plant Cove, another track with excessive underwater driving. But then you get to Rosalina's Ice World, one of the more complex handheld courses, a special cup track featuring an iconic Nintendo princess. The only track named after Rosalina in the series, actually. This would be a course that would be the only winter-themed track of the wave, and notably, this wave might come out in December. I know a lot of pattern hunting can be seen as extrapolating when it comes to predicting somebody like Nintendo, but they are consistent in how they use winter courses historically. They typically always feature a new one in every title, as well as bringing back a retro one in the process. In the Booster Pass, they've brought back one in the majority of the waves now. But out of the waves that need these courses, Wave 3 and 6 felt most necessary due to their timing for the majority of the player base. I think this is why we all subconsciously thought that Vancouver would be a lock for Wave 6. But now it isn't in Wave 6, so there's a gap to fill. Dino Dino Jungle seems slightly convincing as the second track of a special cup, but Rosalina's Ice World also fits this category. It's not the newest tour course, but it also isn't the oldest. It feels old enough to go under the radar, and that typically is the way Nintendo likes it. So with this prediction, I have my retro courses set. It might seem weird to have some tour originals in slot 3, but Wave 3's original was also a slot 3 course. And though it doesn't mean much, the original plan did have 2 question marks for slot 3, albeit slot 4 of Cup 1 did as well. I do expect that the retro courses should have 2 in each cup though, so I will be keeping DK Mountain in the first cup regardless. The order of the Piranha Plant tracks depends on DK Mountain's placement, I think. If it is a finale as I predict, I expect Piranha Plant Cove will be in the final cup as the more advanced track of the 2. This would leave Pipeline as the 3rd course in Cup 1. In this scenario, the city placement feels clear. Rome goes to Cup 1 and Madrid goes to Cup 2, and we're done. DK Mountain and Piranha Plant Pipeline are daytime courses, while pretty much the entire vibe of my second cup seems to be nighttime. Unless they want to rename Wave 6 into Mario Party 6, I imagine they'd want to have some better variety within the cups, so here we have it. The most likely alternative in my mind is that they place Cove as the final track of Cup 1, put DK Mountain as the 3rd track in Cup 1, kind of like Rock Mountain in Wave 3, and even DK Summit in Wave 4, and then put Pipeline before Wii Rainbow Road. Interestingly enough, I think the teaser could spoil us in this regard. If they only show off Piranha Plant Pipeline, it might be an indication that this is the case. If they show off both of these Piranha Plant tracks, I genuinely have no clue. Anyways, here are my final predictions. I will be treating this as fact from now on to curse this because unlike what you guys tend to believe, I'm not a copium predictor. I'll actually have a video on my copium picks later, but for now, this would be one of the worst case scenarios in my personal opinion, and I am just mentally prepping for it. This is mainly because I'm not a fan of DK Mountain or Rosalina's Ice World, but I can kind of just see the path where both of them are in. Maybe it's good for some of you all though, so who knows. I know you all like DK Mountain a bunch and a lot of you like Rosalina as well, so maybe it's all good. But anyways, I'll be rooting for Albert Boris. In his video, he predicted Daisy Circuit as the mystery course, and the logic seems good given that the course's graphics kind of stand out compared to Ice World and all the other potential tracks. But if I really had to pick a track I'd want that should hypothetically be possible, I think I'd take Lakeside Park. But again, maybe I should just be careful what I wish for.